Hey, I'm Matthew James Duffy, baker, chef, professor, dad, and author of this book right here, my first cookbook, Bread, etc. And today we're gonna be making a sourdough starter from scratch. A sourdough starter is basically just flour and water that's been left to ferment. It captures the wild yeast and bacteria from the flour and surrounding environment, and it's what makes naturally leavened breads rise and taste amazing. If you came here from the QR code in the book, thank you so much. And if not, my book, Bread, etc. is available September 2025 wherever books is sold. So if you're watching this before, it's available for pre-sale, and if after, please help me out, grab a copy of the book. The process takes 5 days from start to finish. Now let's dive into day one. To make a sourdough starter, all you need is flour and water. We're also gonna need a jar or a vessel to keep it in, a little spatula. I like to use a spoon just to move the flour and the water, and a scale. If you don't have a scale in the recipe or on my website, I've listed it in teaspoon and tablespoons, but I do recommend getting a scale. So one of the things we're gonna do here is I'm gonna follow the recipe in the book, but I'm gonna tell you the timestamps because if you're a bit over or under, it's not really a big deal. So it's exactly 6 p.m. when we're starting this. We're gonna use 50 degrees Celsius water, which is 122 Fahrenheit. This water is actually 47 or 118, but that's also fine. So to start, I'm gonna put about 14 grams of water into my jar, and then I'm gonna put 14 grams of rye flour. I think rye flour is the best thing to use to create a sourdough starter, but if you don't have rye, you can start with bread flour or even whole wheat flour will work. Now, our 14 grams of rye, 14 grams of water and flour. We're just gonna mix this up in a jar. Now, this looks like a really big jar for this amount of flour, but we're gonna add to this every day for 5 days, and you should end up with something that looks sort of like, if I can get it out of there, like that. It's a thick paste. I like to scrape it together into the corner. We're gonna place a lid on this, stick it up here, and leave it for about 24 hours, and then we'll proceed with day two. What's up? It's day two of creating our sourdough starter from scratch. I'm following the exact recipe from my cookbook, but I want you to know that it has a little bit of flexibility. It says here to leave it after day one for 24 hours, but I've got kids, my life is busy, and it's actually been about 25 hours. So we're gonna do equal parts flour and water, but on day two, we're gonna introduce bread flour. So I've got 14 grams of water. This is 45 degrees Celsius or about 113 degrees Fahrenheit. So first, put your water. Next, put your flour. And you'll see why we selected this large jar here, because it's gonna grow inside the jar. We're gonna mix this up really well. And before you feed it, if you smell it, it kind of smells like rotten grass, and it looks a little bit puffy in the jar. It hasn't really started to grow yet, but you'll see some little air bubbles and a bit of puffing in the jar. So you're gonna scrape down the sides of the jar as best you can. We've got a little bit more. Cover, and we're gonna leave this for 24 hours, and on day three, we'll give it its third feed. It's day three of creating a new sourdough starter, following the recipe out of my cookbook, Bread, etc. And we're now going to use bread flour, rye flour, water, and feed it. It's a little bit over 24 hours, which is what the recipe states. It is about 9 p.m., so we're actually looking at about 27 hours, but it's not gonna make any difference, and it's still looking great. You can see that it's got some actual bubbling in it. It's got a thick pancake-like consistency, and it already smells fermented. We're gonna use 26 grams of water between 79 to 86 Fahrenheit, which is 26 to 30 Celsius. And then we're going to use the same amount of flour, 26 grams, but half the flour is rye and half the flour is bread flour. So we'll add our water, our rye, our bread flour. We're gonna mix this up really well, and because we're doing equal parts flour and water, it should remain quite thick. And by tomorrow morning, we should see a significant amount of bubbles on here, and that'll be our day four. So mix this up really well. Again, you're gonna wanna scrape down the sides. We're gonna place this off to the side up here, and we'll pick up tomorrow on day four. It is about 7 p.m., so that means it's been about 22 hours since our last feed. You can see that it's risen. There's lots of bubbles on top, and it smells super funky at this point. I've got 13 grams of rye, 13 grams of bread flour, and this water is about 26 Celsius, which is 79 Fahrenheit. So we're gonna put the water, the flour, mix it up, and leave it overnight, same as we did on every other day. If you look at the picture on day four, and you look at this, it looks the exact same, so that means we're on the right track. 26 grams of water, flours, Get in there and mix this up really super well. Now, the next feed is scheduled in 24 hours, but at this point, if you're already bubbling away like I am, check this after 12 hours and you actually probably are pretty good to go. So I'm gonna check in with this tomorrow and I'll update you on the time. And if you wanna leave it for 24 hours, that works too. But if you don't, you know, can go a bit earlier. So we're gonna put the lid on this, back on the shelf. And in the meantime, I'm gonna read a few chapters of the book. Today is day 5 of creating a new sourdough starter from scratch. This has already risen and fallen. That's how healthy this is. And we could probably move on already, but we're gonna follow the book, because it's my book, and go on to day 5. But this time, we're gonna put a little elastic band around it so we can monitor how much it rises. After day 5, if it looks like mine has all that bubbling, you're good to move into your regular feeding, your levain, and after today, when you feed it, you're gonna need to remove some and discard the rest. So to start, we're gonna add 30 grams of water between 79 to 86 Fahrenheit, which is 26 to 30 Celsius. 30 grams. Then we're gonna add our flour just on top. This is rye and bread flour, 15 grams of each. You'll notice we've increased the flour just a little bit. This is because we've got more starter here and it's gonna need more food. And I forgot a spatula and my lovely wife just passed me this one. So we're gonna mix this up really well. And it should be sort of like a thicker pancake batter. Scrape down your sides. And my kids are playing downstairs. Once you've mixed it up, at this point, we're gonna put an elastic band, and within a few hours, you should notice it rising. You'll see how high it climbs and it'll start to fall. When we go into your next feed, which is day 6, you can start to build the levains out of the book, or you can remove some, 50 grams, 100 flour, 100 water, give it another feed. I recommend checking out 10 tips for creating a sourdough starter. And I have another video on how I feed and maintain my starter, which will be a great follow-up to this video. I'll leave a link in the description below. So that's it, 5 days to create a new sourdough starter, recipe directly from my first cookbook, Bread, etc., sold wherever cookbooks are sold. We're gonna let this rise and we'll take a few videos later to show you where it's at. Thank you so much for watching and I cannot wait for you to get this book in your hands.